The boy hadn't spoken a single word in months until he met an old rescue dog no one wanted. In the farthest kennel of a nearly empty shelter, Max, gray-muzzled and forgotten, lifted his head. And across the room, Ethan, a silent child clutching a blue dinosaur, looked up for the first time. The old concrete building stood quietly at the edge of town, its worn sign barely readable. Haven Animal Shelter. Inside, the echo of soft whimpers and the clink of dog tags filled the air. Dozens of kennels lined the walls, most empty now. It was adoption day. The last dog sat silently in the farthest kennel. His name was Max. Once he was a hero, a search and rescue dog with a badge, medals, and stories of bravery. Now he was just old. His snout had gone white, his body moved a little slower. And while the younger pups were adopted quickly, Max had waited, and waited, and waited. Shelter worker Lucy crouched beside his cage, her voice soft. "Still no one for you, huh, Max?" Max wagged his tail faintly, lifting his eyes with a tired hope. Outside, a minivan pulled into the parking lot. A woman stepped out, followed by a small boy clutching a blue toy dinosaur. The boy didn't look up. His eyes stayed locked on the ground. His steps were careful, almost hesitant. "Come on, Ethan," the woman said gently. "Let's just look." Ethan was 8 years old. Diagnosed with nonverbal autism, his world was quiet and carefully controlled. His mother, Sarah, had tried everything to help him feel more comfortable, but nothing seemed to bridge the invisible wall around his heart. They walked into the shelter, the noise startling Ethan. He flinched. His grip on the dinosaur tightened. Lucy approached with a smile. "Looking for a friend today?" Sarah nodded. "We've been thinking about it for a while. Something or someone who might help him open up. Let me show you around." As they passed kennels, Ethan didn't show much interest. The barking overwhelmed him. Then they reached the far corner. Max didn't bark. He didn't even move. He just watched. And something shifted. Ethan stopped. His eyes lifted. And for the first time in days, Sarah saw a flicker of curiosity. "Do you want to see this one?" she asked. Ethan slowly stepped toward Max's cage. His fingers touched the metal bars. Max inched forward, sitting down just inches away. He didn't make a sound. Ethan reached through the bars and placed the dinosaur beside Max, and Max gently nudged it back. Max came home with them that day. The paperwork was quick, the decision even quicker. Sarah couldn't believe what she'd seen. "He hasn't looked anyone in the eye in a month," she whispered to Lucy. "Not even me." Lucy smiled, blinking back tears. Max was waiting for someone. At home, things didn't change overnight, but they changed. Max followed Ethan everywhere, not closely, just enough to be there. He lay beside him during long, silent hours. He waited by the door when Ethan needed his space. And every night, when Ethan curled up under his blanket, Max would rest his head at the foot of the bed, standing guard. Then one morning, something unbelievable happened. Sarah was in the kitchen when she heard it, a sound she hadn't heard in years: laughter. Ethan was in the living room, giggling as Max tugged on the dinosaur with his mouth. It wasn't loud, it wasn't wild, but it was joyful. Sarah covered her mouth, eyes filling with tears. Later, during a therapy session, Ethan's therapist noticed the change too. "He's calmer," she said, "more present. Whatever this dog is doing, it's working." Ethan even started using picture cards more consistently. When he wanted Max's help to open the backyard gate, he'd point. When Max brought him the dinosaur, Ethan would nod or smile, subtle but powerful signs of progress. One evening, Sarah found Ethan drawing. Max was beside him, asleep. "What are you drawing, sweetheart?" Ethan pointed. The paper showed a picture of a boy and a dog standing on a hill. Above them, in crooked letters, were 2 words: "Best friends." Sarah knelt down. "That's you and Max?" Ethan nodded. His fingers brushed the dog's drawing gently. Max thumped his tail in his sleep. Spring arrived with soft winds and new colors. Sarah planned a weekend camping trip, a small step out of their routine, and a chance for Ethan to connect with the world beyond the walls of their home. "Are you sure about this?" her sister asked. "What if it overwhelms him?" "I'm sure," Sarah said. "Max will be there, and Ethan's ready." They drove to Whispering Pines State Park. A quiet, forested area with winding trails and clear skies. Ethan sat in the back seat, holding Max's leash and humming softly. The first day went well. They set up camp near a lake surrounded by tall trees. Max explored the perimeter with quiet diligence, returning to Ethan's side like clockwork. That night, they sat by the fire, Ethan clutching his dinosaur, Max resting against his leg. "Look at him," Sarah whispered. "He looks free." The next morning, the world shifted. Ethan had woken early, the sky still dim. Sarah was still asleep. He quietly unzipped the tent and stepped outside. Max followed. They walked down the narrow trail Ethan had noticed the day before, the one that led into the forest. Max stayed close, occasionally brushing Ethan's side with his nose, sensing the boy's growing excitement. But then, a sharp sound, a rustle, a crack. Ethan flinched, lost his footing, and tumbled down a slope hidden behind a patch of moss. Max barked, once, sharp and urgent, and leapt after him. They landed at the bottom in a narrow ravine. Ethan was shaken, a shallow cut bleeding on his arm. He whimpered, looking around, overwhelmed. Max circled him protectively, barking again, louder. Back at the camp, Sarah woke to silence. "Ethan?" she called. No answer. She stepped outside. The tent flap was open. Max's leash was gone. Panic hit her like a truck. She called the park rangers. A search began. In the forest, Max stayed alert. He nudged Ethan gently, guiding him to sit beneath a tree. The boy was trembling, his lips moving silently. Max pressed his head into Ethan's chest, grounding him. Ethan slowly began to calm. Above them, the search team was moving. Voices echoed faintly through the trees. "Ethan!" But the ravine muffled sound, and Ethan couldn't yell. Max knew time was short. He licked Ethan's face, then looked up the slope. With one last glance back, Max ran. He followed the scent trail they'd taken down, his old legs burning with every step. But he didn't stop. At the edge of the forest, he burst through the trees, nearly collapsing at the feet of a ranger. "Whoa!" the ranger shouted. "It's the dog!" Sarah ran toward them. "Where's my son? Where's Ethan?" Max barked, turned, and darted back into the woods. They followed, through dense brush, across shallow streams, and down winding paths, until Max stopped at the edge of the ravine, barking furiously. Below, they saw Ethan, curled up under the tree, hugging his knees. Sarah's scream cracked the air. "Ethan!" Ropes, lights, hands reaching. The rangers moved fast. Minutes later, Sarah was on her knees, Ethan in her arms, his small frame trembling. And Max? Max simply sat beside them, his tail wagging slowly, his job done. They returned home with more than just memories. Ethan began speaking, slowly, softly. His first word came 1 week later. At breakfast, Ethan touched Max's back and whispered, "Hero." Sarah cried for a long time that day. Max's story spread. People called him a miracle, a savior, a second chance hero. But for Ethan, he was something more. He was the friend who saw him when no one else could. The one who stayed when the world felt too loud. The one who waited, just for him. Sometimes the ones the world forgets are the ones who end up saving it. Max wasn't just a rescue dog. He was the rescue, the last to be chosen, the one left behind. But in Ethan's silent world, filled with invisible walls and unspoken thoughts, Max found a way in, without words, without judgment, just love and patience. This story isn't just about a dog and a boy. It's about how connection can come from the most unexpected places. It's about how healing doesn't always look like medicine or therapy. Sometimes it has 4 legs, a tired body, and the gentlest eyes. Ethan learned to laugh again, to trust, to feel, because Max didn't give up on him. And Ethan, in his own quiet way, gave Max something too, a home, a family, a purpose. And when the moment came, when danger appeared without warning, it was Max who leapt without hesitation. Not because he was trained to, but because he loved the boy who once reached out a trembling hand and gave him a second chance at life. So if there's something this story teaches us, it's this. Love doesn't always come in the form we expect. Sometimes it has a tail that wags slowly, and waits patiently. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who needs hope today. You never know. A simple story might be the rescue someone didn't know they needed. Until next time, take care, and remember, even the forgotten can become heroes.